The functionalism literature on homelessness and housing insecurity has paid attention to the significance placed on the individual when trying to exit homelessness. Hopper articulates that state institutions rest emphasis on the correction and rehabilitation of the individual, through the notion of kinship, redistributing responsibility for welfare onto families and friends. The functionalist's viewpoint is most common in the United States, in which much of the research of these literatures are based, yet is still very relevant in the context of the UK, as it provides an explanation for the reasoning behind the perceptions on the homeless community created by the wider Western society. Furthermore, Mills articulates the repetitive focus on the individual and their problems or poor life choices, tools used by welfare reformers to build public support for restrictive and punitive reform measures, and perhaps also to take the pressure off the neoliberal agenda. Since the homelessness sector was founded 50 years ago, the number of people living in housing precarity and sleeping rough has increased, and the scale and severity of the problem calls for deeper thinking for a solution. Concerns about the growing numbers of people in the UK experiencing housing precarity and homelessness are well researched. However, the inequalities caused by intersecting identities in relation to the vulnerability of individuals to sleeping rough and housing insecurity has been neglected in literature and also in UK policy. Titled, "How Far Might the Use of an Intersectional Lens Improve Policies Towards Homelessness and Housing Insecurity in the UK?" this dissertation utilized the method of secondary research to investigate such connections. Previous UK policies, derived from aspects of immigration laws, housing schemes and welfare provision, have been reviewed to highlight the inadequacies of single-axis, ungendered and racialized policies. Sleeping rough, people sleeping, about to bed down, sitting on, in or standing next to their bedding, or bedded down in the open air, such as on the streets, in tents, doorways, parks, bus shelters or encampments, people in buildings or other places not designed for habitation, such as stairwells, barns, sheds, car parks, cars, derelict boats, stations, or bashers. The definition does not include people in hostels or shelters, people in campsites or other sites used for recreational purposes or organized protest, squatters or travelers. Social housing. Social homes are provided by housing associations, not-for-profit organizations that own, let, and manage rented housing, or a local council. Intersectionality is an analytic sensibility, a way of thinking about identity and its relationship to power. Originally articulated on behalf of black women, the term brought to light the invisibility of many constituents within groups that claim them as members but often fail to represent them, as single-axis approaches towards the inequalities of gender or race fail to recognize the complexity of social structures and subjective experiences. This dissertation is concerned with analyzing how far the use of an intersectional lens might improve policies towards homelessness and housing security in the UK. To conduct this investigation, a review of the preceding theoretical and political ideas and research on homelessness is in order to indicate barriers and important areas of acknowledgement towards creating future, intersectional housing legislation. Therefore, this review examines the literature on 4 varying approaches, offering differing theoretical stances and their explanations for the following 2 questions. What are the supposed causes of homelessness and how does this implicate how the homeless population are viewed? What are the proposed solutions to homelessness? The 4 core theoretical approaches on homelessness that will be analyzed are the functionalism approach, the structuralist approach, the rights-based approach, and the feminist approaches. Tackling the social issue of homelessness and housing insecurity is difficult, due to the complexities surround the current data and definitions of homelessness, as well as deeply ingrained structural problems. Quantitative data of the size, scale and who makes up the homeless population and those living in housing precarity is limited, and definitions stop short of what is required to end rough sleeping itself, because to do so requires us to prevent other forms of homelessness too. Differentiations between the types of homelessness, as well as pathways into and out of homelessness, are lost in many vast definitions. Data collection is often inhibited by single-axis frameworks, as well as issues of the invisibility of certain types of people within the homeless population and the criminalization and prosecution of rough sleepers. Furthermore, past single-axis policies have paid little acknowledgement to those who are, multiply burdened, on the margins of society, rendering them ignored, invisible and discriminated against at political, legal and socio-economic level. Consequently, people facing intersecting inequalities have restricted access to the help they need and are more likely to face housing insecurity and homelessness.